Charlie Kirk absolutely blows out a medical student, medical know-it-all, while they debate abortion. Folks, I think you're going to like this, okay? This abortion issue, I don't even know how it's controversial, okay? A life is a life no matter what. I mean, I do know how it's controversial, okay? We are massively propagandized in the West, and that's pretty much why. But with all that being said, we're gonna right get into it. First, guys, just do me a huge favor, like our video and share it around so we can keep bringing you all this great hard-hitting content, and subscribe if you are new so we make sure that you come back soon. As always, everybody, I'm your host, Darian, and this is Resist the Mainstream.
All right, so thank you for coming, Charlie. My question to you, I mean, I'm a medical student, and so I'm going to throw out the big A word. I know you get asked about it a lot, but I want to hear from you what your opinion is on abortion.
Life begins at conception.
But about abortion specifically, why do you think abortion's wrong specifically?
Well, you agree murder is wrong?
I agree. Okay, so this is where we get to the question, right? Because what is it about murder you say is wrong? Like, why is murder wrong?
Well, because it's a human being, not just because it has consciousness or because it's of a certain age, because it's a human.
Well, what is it that gives human being this moral worth?
Not its consciousness necessarily.
I didn't say it's consciousness.
I know that. I can imagine it because it is a human being, because it has a soul.
And what is this soul? Where does this come from? This idea that it's...
Exactly. I mean, again, the Greeks postulated that it is the entirety of your being. Okay, you guys can laugh. I mean, it's true. I mean, every civilization has had a different belief, but agreed upon ethical monotheism, which is the creed of the West and what the birth certificate of my country articulates, is that every human being is more than just matter, it's more than just a clump of cells, but it also has an invisible element to you that will live beyond you.
Fine, so, I mean, can you say that comes from the Bible, or where else do you get that from?
Ethical monotheism, which is the creed of the West. And again, the Declaration of Independence mentions God 4 times. The founders were explicitly believed not in a secular morality, but a divinely given one, of at least this idea that there is a God and you are not him. And let me ask you, what is the first stage of human development?
So this is the thing, right? We can take it from the sperm being generated in the father and the oocyte being generated in the mother, right? They fuse at birth, conception, sorry. The only thing that happens at conception is these 2 cells fuse.
Right? No, DNA is created. A zygote.
DNA is not created.
A DNA, no, that's not true. The DNA,
Charlie.
DNA coding at the zygote. Hold on, time out.
Let me finish.
Does a zygote have a unique marker?
Charlie, DNA...
Does a zygote have a unique marker?
You have to let me speak. You have to...
But answer it, yes or no. Does a zygote have a unique marker?
Define a unique marker.
Meaning, can you differentiate the DNA coding between the mother and the zygote if you examine it under a deoxyribonucleic acid analysis? Can you?
Only purely because the addition comes from the father.
Oh, so it is something different.
Charlie, DNA is not...
Leftists engage in so much dishonest rhetoric to justify their wicked stance on the issue of a right to life, which is to say abortion. They don't believe in a right to life, all right? That much is clear. Also, how does this guy not know that life begins at conception? Well, Charlie, you know, it depends on how you look at it, what your view is on it. No, it's not. Even the leftist scientists will admit that life begins at conception, because there's just no getting around that, okay? No matter how much you try to gaslight and make it seem like it ain't so, it is the case. Another related example of these tactics is when people say, oh, well, it's not a baby, it's a zygote. It's not a baby, it's a fetus. Which, by the way, fetus literally means newborn offspring in Latin, so, which is to say baby. So it's quite a ridiculous and a kind of hilarious thing that people will use fetus to dehumanize a baby. You're just calling it baby in a different language that's now pretty much extinct.
Created. DNA is not created. You have, the father has his own genome, the mother has her own genome. They fuse. This is why you have the same characteristics, similar ones to your mother, similar ones to your father. That's why you have similar characteristics to your siblings. DNA is not created, right? So when you ask me, where does a human being come from? I can say to you, it starts at conception, but all conception is these 2 cells joining, right? But these 2 cells were created, the mother's cells were created long before, they were created when she was a fetus. So there's none of...
And there you have it. When she was a fetus. Okay, so she was, interesting.
This DNA being produced, right? So we can't establish, the only thing that happens at conception is these two cells fuse. Now this idea that means that for some reason, suddenly that moral worth comes in, but it wasn't there before when you had these 2 cells who had half the DNA. But suddenly there's a
correct. Yes, something magical happens at that.
It's not magical, Charlie. We know about this.
Well, hold on.
Charlie.
Time out. Hold on.
promise you, I'm not trying to score points. I'm not trying to score points on you. This is genuine.
We call it the miracle of life for a reason. We've not been able to yet replicate human life development outside of the womb.
We call it the miracle of life because yes, it's something beautiful. The ability to form a new.
Magical.
It's not. You say magical as in, oh, it's beautiful. It's an incredible thing that happens, of course. But it's not incredible in the sense we don't know what's going on. There's no new DNA coming out of nowhere.
Hold on, but time out. Isn't there a separate DNA though than the mother? Like,
yes, from the father.
Okay, yes, but it's not the father's DNA either. A new coding is created.
Charlie,
you are a blend of the two. And so when did your life begin?
Okay, so
when did your life
begin? I mean, again, this comes from what you define as where life starts. You can say life starts at conception, but I'm telling you, I believe that's just an arbitrary point, right? That's just the moment these two cells fuse. Now, you say about this mother thing. So the way DNA is...
And there you have it. Human life is arbitrary, straight from the horse's mouth.
Arranged in a cell is this arranging chromosomes. Chromosomes are paired up, so you have one from the mother, one from the father, typically, in a healthy individual, right? Now, you can take those maternal chromosomes out and you can find that this is who the person's mother is, and you can do the same with the father. Now, the reason you are different to your mother and father is because some of those chromosomes express genes that are different from each other, and so those genes interact, and that's what gives rise to you, right? But there's no space for any kind of moral framework to come into that until you consider that a human being is capable of consciousness and of suffering. But if you take that out of the equation, the fact that these two DNA, whatever they call molecules, right? These two DNA molecules are fusing, that does not suddenly flip a switch that attributes moral worth to that individual.
Going off of his logic, if somebody is, unconscious, unable to respond, that kind of thing, in a coma, have at it. Do whatever you want. It's all good. After all, they don't know what the hell's going on, so who cares? Open season. Let's not define them, let's not arbitrarily say it's immoral because, they're a human life. It's like, are they sentient or not? That's all that matters.
I'm just saying, I'm not trying to score points.
Right, then, by what moral standard do you believe that?
I believe that if an individual is capable of suffering, then it's wrong. Now, can I explain my opinion on abortion, just so you can understand? I would agree, as many reasonable people would, that at 9 months, it's unreasonable to expect someone to get an abortion, right? Unless you have some extreme circumstances. But for an elective abortion seems a bit radical to me. But it also seems radical to say that a woman who has just, the cells have just fused, to deny her of an abortion also seems wrong to me. Because that zygote is not capable of suffering, as far as we know.
So by what moral standard? Is that just your opinion? Where did you get that moral standard from?
Because suffering is a bad thing. We all know suffering is a bad thing. That's an objective fact, right?
Hold on. So you do believe in objective morality?
I believe that suffering is an objectively negative
So if you can't feel it, is it okay?
What do you mean if you can't?
You can't feel the pain, is it okay to inflict the pain?
In the sense that if no one's suffering from it, if you have a scenario where nobody is suffering from something, then yes, of course. Something is only a moral question if it affects someone's well-being.
So let me just make sure I understand this correctly. That if it doesn't affect their well-being, so dementia patients that don't know who they are or where they're from, can we execute dementia patients because they're confused about their well-being?
Can you imagine a scenario?
Or Alzheimer's patients.
Charlie,
Alzheimer's patients don't really know much about anything. Can we schedule them for execution because they can't technically suffer?
I'll respond. So can you imagine a scenario where we lived in a society where we killed people when they suffered from dementia, were incapable of suffering, and we killed them, right? It's not a scenario that involves an absence of suffering. There's still suffering involved. Imagine you grow up thinking, my dad could be killed at any moment because he's going to get dementia. Imagine living your life thinking, I could get dementia and suddenly I'd be killed by my state.
Imagine a world where you slaughter 1 million babies every year in America.
Charlie, it's not...
Oh! World star. Boom. Got him. Now, I have a question for this Cambridge gentleman over here. Imagine a world where a young baby is sitting, existing in life, not knowing that at any day he could suddenly lose it in the most tragic and heinous way. And then imagine, obviously this is terrible, I don't want this to happen, that baby actually does get deleted. Boom. he's gone. Let's just say he doesn't suffer at all while before he goes. You know, it happens really quick. Well, obviously it's all good, right? Because the baby didn't suffer before anticipating that kind of terrible thing that the Alzheimer's patient, or rather future Alzheimer's patient, might have been. And when it happened, well, you know, it was quick, easy, and the baby didn't even know. So it's all good. You know, there was no suffering, so therefore it's not immoral. That is literally the logic that this kid over here is using. It is so faulty and so silly. He can talk as quick as he wants, speak in all these little fancy ways, but at the end of the day, it is a fundamentally immoral and flawed argument. There's no going around that.
That's the problem.
Hold on, if it's a forcible removal from the umbilical cord of another human life, again, we have clarity but not agreement. Biologically, you know that your entire coding began at conception. Your coding,
that's
your
what,
uniqueness.
That's what I'm denying. I disagree with that.
Okay, when those two cells fused together, to use your terminology,
yes,
that is where the process of
scientifically accepted terminology.
In the interest of time, can we bring this question to a close?
The process of human development objectively begins at that moment. Therefore, those human beings are deserving of human rights. We keep going, or do you want to?
No, thank you. Yeah, you can finish.
The process of development begins from the moment the sperm is being generated in the father, the moment the eggs are being generated in the mother. To say that suddenly the moral worth switches on when they fuse doesn't make any sense.
It's not a developing baby when it's a sperm and an egg. It's a sperm and an egg that is stuck in that state. Is this guy serious?
Just a point
it makes perfect sense, because that is when your journey as a human being, when the sperm and egg were separate, you were not yet a fused human being. You were not created uniquely.
DNA existed.
In image.
Your DNA existed. I thought.
Well, no, the parts of your DNA existed. Your DNA did not exist. It's like saying that we have a full car just because we have all the parts. It was not yet put together until conception happens and the zygote was formed. Thank you. I think we have to get
Can we move on to the next question, please? Thank you.
Well, folks, that wraps up our clip for today. What'd you think? Personally, I enjoyed it. It was a spirited and lively debate. And while the dude is obviously totally wrong with his immoral position, hey, he actually is a little bit better at arguing it than many of the rabid, angry pro-choicers, or rather pro-abortion people can be. So I'll give him that. With all that being said, everybody, thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate it. As always, comment below. Let us know what you liked about the video, what kind of stuff you want to see in the future, and we will see you again soon. God bless.